Hello and welcome to Lecture 1, Understanding Mindfulness. This lecture is designed to give you a good understanding of what mindfulness is, along with a look at the current trends for teaching mindfulness to children. If you don't have your workbook in front of you, please pause this lecture and get it ready now. Remember that to get the most out of this course, you need to use your workbook and complete the exercises that are provided. Once you have your workbook, before we go any further, I would like you to open your book to week 1 and fill in the exercise, which is to write down the date and time that you'll be completing each week's module. You may think this is a trivial thing, however, as you will learn throughout the course, forming habits, routines, and schedules is an important part of any success story. Getting into a routine or a schedule is the best way to set goals for completing something. So pause me once again and fill out this section of your workbook. Okay, moving on. What is mindfulness? According to Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is the modern day father of Western mindfulness, mindfulness is the act of paying attention to the present moment on purpose in a non-judgmental way. So if we just unpack that a bit, it's the act of being present or being in the moment. And we're doing that with intention, without any judgments. We're just letting thoughts that come into our minds leave our mind without attaching to those thoughts. As soon as we begin judging the situation, we've actually shifted our consciousness from awareness of the moment to thoughts about the moment. And that's two different kinds of thinking styles. Mindfulness meditation really is an innate human quality which varies in capacity and willingness from person to person. People are naturally mindful. The state of being mindful can be observed when we see someone totally immersed in the moment of what they're doing. That is, they are mentally present, focused, and concentrating on a task at hand. For example, they may be completing an intricate painting or sculpture and paying attention to the detail of the brush stroke and their pressure that they're using with their hand and the brush on the canvas. Or it could be walking through a muddy area and being mindful not to step in the puddle, or being mindful of the pressure that you use under your feet. In the case of a child, being mindful in this situation may be to make heavy steps in the puddles and splash as high as possible to just really enjoy that present moment experience. So whether we realize it or not, we all practice mindfulness to some degree. And there's different types of mindfulness, which we will discuss as we go along. However, unfortunately, the latest research has shown that there is plenty of people, including our youth, that need to improve their well-being. Because by the time people have reached adulthood, they are often mentally out of control with overthinking or allowing themselves to be easily distracted because they haven't let those thoughts just pass by. They've attached to them, they've started to judge them, and they begin thinking about thoughts and they find themselves lost in their mind. And if those thoughts are negative or anxious, it can really affect their well-being. And for some people, actually a large percentage of their overthinking is spent in these negative thinking styles. Thankfully, researchers also found that practicing mindfulness, along with loving kindness and gratitude meditations, does improve well-being. And for this reason, it is common sense to teach young children what mindfulness is and why it is good to be mindful, and what meditation is and why it is good to meditate. We need to teach them to identify when they're being mindful in order to cultivate what is already there to ensure its growth, rather than have it slowly disappear to the point where, as adults, they are going to mindfulness classes just to reduce their anxiety and depression due to not being able to control the negative thinking patterns that have developed. As a training technique, mindfulness is like an art form, and through the deliberate cultivating or shaping of our minds, like any art form, the more we practice, the better we get. So let's have a look at mindfulness in schools. Through teaching mindfulness in schools, children are learning to allow the internal chatter of constant inner judgments and personal opinions expressed about everything to flow through their mind without emotionally reacting or attaching to those thoughts. At the same time, they're also learning to refocus their minds through the use of their breath. And this is a wonderful skill for teenagers to learn, for young children of any age. In Buddhism, this is called liberation, because it's a kind of mental freedom derived from the self-achievement of cultivating the domain of being, rather than being overwhelmed by the constant stresses and emotional reactivity to certain situations in life. Unfortunately, yet slowly, mindfulness training is beginning to demonstrate its benefits in selected school settings for both behaviour modification and academic achievement. Unfortunately, in some schools and also in a growing number of childcares, instead of directly teaching the children mindfulness through qualified teachers, the current trend many are opting for is to opt out. And a growing number of teachers are using various apps or clicking on YouTube links to teach children mindfulness. However, without realizing it, these children are being conditioned to plug into the system, even to practice mindfulness or find peace of mind, which is not the direction we should be going. Today's average child is bombarded with technology, and going online or being plugged into the internet has become an unnatural norm, even to get schoolwork accomplished. So do we really want to plug them into the internet to practice being mindful? Moreover, speaking to a young child, and I've heard this same thought echoed through other children, this particular child has been meditating since he was a very young boy. But speaking to him about his experience of meditating or practicing mindfulness in the classroom, he said, watching the teacher complete her work while she leaves the children to practice mindfulness through listening to recordings seems like a time waster that none of the kids are really into. And this was a 10-year-old child who was actually very good at practicing mindfulness. I've heard from so many children that they really hate practicing mindfulness at school because it's boring and they really don't even know why they're doing it. They have to do it for too long, the teacher's not doing it, and they really do see it as just something they don't want to do. And that's certainly not what we want to happen. That you may as well not put that recording on and not teach those children, because you're actually doing harm to any future mindfulness skills that they may have developed. As we all know, children learn more from example, and they are very quick to see whether or not you are doing what you're telling them they should be doing. Since teachers are role models, it's only fitting that the child feels confident that they are learning something that the teacher also knows and is capable and confident of practicing, which includes the ability to discuss the topic with children and with their parents. And by teaching in this way, you'll be teaching the children to understand and practice mindfulness without the need for technology, and without losing interest, which is a much better way to deliver mindfulness training to children. Okay, so to end this lecture, you'll click on the quiz and complete the quiz. That's a way of consolidating your learning. And I've also listed a few links for students that enjoy additional support material, and I strongly urge you to read through or watch the extra videos that I've provided as an additional way to support your learning and consolidate what you have learned. And in the next lecture, we'll be discussing the man behind the movement, Jon Kabat-Zinn, and talking about what the research into mindfulness has found. Okay, and I will see you there.